welcome to Hollywood Smoke in the city of Santa Monica for another edition of 10 Count. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Michael Baca of UCN Live and Dave Smith, the sports god. This past weekend in Omaha, Nebraska at the Centurylink Center, it was the return of Terence "Bud" Crawford, who successfully defended his 240-pound belts by stopping John Molina in 8, and in the HBO co-feature, Ray Beltran mows down Mason Menard in 7. Mike, Terence Crawford, John Molina. I don't know what to say other than the fact I thought Molina not making weight and that overall performance where I wrote today he looked like a drunken man with vertigo, I thought was embarrassing.
Yeah, that was bad. Molina looked like a guy that just came off the street in there. But you know, looking back at it, he walked into the ring to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Give It Away Now. So I think he kind of forewarned us about this, including missing weight. And you know, he's a Riddler. He got the Riddler shorts on. He's
some would say the Joker.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Let's be honest. I mean, Terence Crawford, Dave, I think is very good. I think he's one of the elite fighters in the world. I got the sense, literally, John Molina could have had a 40-pound weight advantage. It wouldn't have mattered.
Terence Crawford has great skill, and then after the first round going southpaw the rest of the fight and not skipping a beat, he's a sharpshooter, and Molina wasn't going to win anyway, but that strategy, following him around the ring, not cutting the ring off, coming straight in and straight out and taking a beating for 8 rounds and really not changing anything up. He was an easy target, and he's got a lot of heart. He's coming forward and he's throwing, but he took a terrible beating and didn't make any adjustment in strategy.
Well, I don't think he can.
Yeah.
To me, I've always said about Molina, and I'm gonna date myself here, 80s baseball reference. Dave, he reminds me of Rob Deere or Pete Incaviglia. Remember those guys?
Oh, you are old.
Yeah,
wow.
Steve Balboni. Remember those guys that used to hit like 210, 220?
Gorman Thomas.
Right, but, well, Gorman can play a little bit better. But he's one of those guys, has a lot of holes in his swing. He hits well under 220, but he hits a lot of home runs. But he's not the most efficient player, but he has power, and once in a while that's good enough. If you really look at Molina's biggest victories, taking away Provodnikov, who we did outbox to his credit, guys like Hank Lundy kind of blew the fight. They hung curveballs. Crawford does not leave you a lot of room for error. And my question is very simple about Terence Crawford, who I believe is certainly the ruler at 140, one of the elite fighters in the world today. Does Bob Arum, if it's even his call, dare allow him in that ring with one Manny Pacquiao?
Hell no. Are you kidding? It's short money for Pacquiao compared to what he can get in a rematch with Floyd, if that will ever happen. But Pacquiao, if he picks his spots right and he fights everybody else, he's going to continue to win and make a lot of money. There goes the Mayweather rematch if he gets knocked out by Terence Crawford, right? That's just not a smart fight for him.
I hate that you brought up the Mayweather rematch, but that is definitely a player in this, and it kind of affects Crawford's career going forward because he needs that Manny Pacquiao. I would love that Pacquiao fight, and I think Bob would be smart in doing it.
In my opinion,
Crawford needs to beat that guy.
In a perfect world, I like Crawford Pacquiao for one reason. Maybe not stylistically. If you're gonna shove the Pacquiao Mayweather rematch down our throat, and quite frankly, an old quote from Bobby Knight to Connie Chung comes to mind that I don't want to bring up here, Dave. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, but okay, if it's an inevitability, I think to have the credibility to sell that again, I think Manny needs a quote-unquote real victory. And now if he beats Crawford, then I say, okay, maybe we do the Mayweather fight again. But I'm sorry, just going straight into it, it seems incredibly cynical.
Yeah, that's you bring up a good point there. I don't know, I kind of feel bad for Crawford because he's in the top rank world on this side of the street. There's not very many opponents at 140 and 147, so he's kind of stuck. Like, I would love to see Crawford Broner at 140. Yeah. That would be an amazing fight, an amazing promotion. But you're kind of wasting your time thinking about it, aren't you?
No, you really are. I think two fighters have been really affected by the divide that currently exists in boxing. I think Golovkin needs dance partners that aren't in his universe. And I think the same with Terence Crawford. The majority of really good names, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, between 140 and 147. Listen, I get it. John Molina was with Al Heyman. I believe Al Heyman is willing to allow cannon fodder on HBO. Dominic Wade, John Molina. He'll give him spare parts. Won't give him assets. And there's a huge difference. Molina's a guy. I get this, Dave, you're a little bit older than me. Back in your day growing up, Did fighters miss weight as much
I was
as
going to
they
bring
do?
up Dave Kingman.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right, earlier.
Well, what was your opinion of Kingman's performance? But Dave, back when you were growing up with your father, who was a big boxing fan, did guys ever really miss weight that much?
No, and they weigh in the day of the fight back then too.
Yeah.
So they didn't weigh in the day before and come in fit 17, 20 pounds heavier the next day. You weighed in the day of the fight. So you had to be ready to roll that on fight day with the weight. Absolutely.
Guys, I was incredibly impressed by Ray Beltran. I know for years he was kind of like this journeyman, best known for being the sparring partner of one Manny Pacquiao. He was the consummate gym fighter who always was missing that extra something in real fights. I'll say this right now. Take away Terence Crawford, who's now at 140, who blanked him a couple of years ago. Mike, look at the landscape. Jorge Linares, Terry Flanagan, guys like that. That version of Ray Beltran at 135, I think he is live against any belt holder in the world.
Absolutely. And he'd be a great measuring stick for prospects as well, if he doesn't get that title fight, which I assume he wants. But yeah, I mean, Ray Beltran with that knockout, it goes to show it's another example of if you knock a guy out impressively, give us a highlight to think about and store in our memory banks. We want to see you fight again, and I think that's what happened with Ray Beltran.
And if there's any justice in the world of boxing, no, there really isn't.
No.
There's a belt holder at 140 that he got absolutely robbed against back in 2013.
Ricky Burns.
Yeah. I would love to see that rematch, of course.
Sure.
I don't think Ricky Burns would. Dave, as it relates to Terence Crawford, if it's not Manny Pacquiao, is there a particular matchup you want for him?
Keith Thurman, who's my favorite welterweight right now. Maybe and bring him up to 47. And you look at the Pacquiao thing again. If Floyd Mayweather is indeed retired and he's not going to come back, Manny, maybe 2 or 3 more fights, and he keeps winning and making, because we all know I think Manny needs the money with his tax situation and everything. And if Crawford keeps winning, maybe it would be worth it to make that fight. If you're Pacquiao, a retirement fight to get a huge payday on your way out, maybe then it happens.
But again, with Keith Thurman, he's with Al Heyman. And currently, March 4th, Keith Thurman is scheduled to fight Danny Garcia. So even if that was a possibility, that would have to be tabled for later on 2017. Well, that's it for this edition of the 10 Count. I'm Steve Kim. On behalf of Michael, Baca, and Dave Smith, goodbye, everybody.